Good morning, everybody. Oh my gosh. I hope y'all had an amazing Labor Day weekend. I know I did. My name is Brenda Neckbottle. You can easily find me on any of the social channels by just hashtag Dear Brenda or Yo Brenda and hashtag Mission Ready. So I am super excited that you guys are here today. Happy Tuesday. Kind of feels like Monday. All is well in the world. And I hope you guys had, just like I said, an absolute amazing Labor Day weekend. Okay, so what are we talking about today? Today we're talking about understanding the impact that difficult people make on team morale. And I am here watching my monitor for any of the questions that you might have. So please do me a favor. If you're finding this little series here or what we're talking about today, you're loving it, you know somebody who's dealing with a situation right now, do me a favor, go ahead, share this, like it, share it, tag somebody. And today I'm going to share with you something at the end that you can take advantage of. All right. Okay. So understanding the impact of difficult people on team morale. I wrote down some extra notes because this is just really good stuff today. So if you have somebody that's a kind of a difficult individual on your team, I want you to understand what is going on with your team. All right. I've seen in my career a lot of leaders and a lot of employees. Well, let's put it this way. I've seen team members question why a leader hasn't done something yet about a difficult person. It's not uncommon. And what they don't know is they don't know what's going on inside that leader's head. And they don't also remember one of my 4 rules of leadership is that leaders don't have problems forever. They actually get rid of them. And get rid of them means a couple of different things. Number 1, they'll address it head on. Number 2, they'll delegate it to somebody else. And number 3, and I think this is where there's a disconnect that takes place, is that leaders will determine whether or not a problem is actually worth fixing. And if it's not worth fixing, it's out of their mind and it's no longer an issue. Doesn't always work with other individuals, right? And so there's some of that that's going on. And what happens with a team is that a team, when they have a super difficult person, now if you're trying to build a really super cohesive team, everybody's focused on one thing, you want everybody to love each other, get along, all that kumbaya stuff, which is doable for a short period of time. But the thing is that group dynamics, like the laws of group dynamic, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to stay that way for the long time. But when you do insert or have a difficult person or somebody who's become difficult in the workplace, your team is going to tolerate that for a period of time. They're going to exhibit grace with it, and that time frame is going to be between 3 to 6 months. And the longer it goes, the less tolerance that they're going to have over time. So let's tie it all together. So if a leader notices that there's a problem and they either take care of it or they delegate it to be taken care of, or they make the determination that it really truly isn't a problem or not the problem worth doing, so therefore it now pushes its way out, your team is still facing the consequences of that. So if you're pushing that problem aside or delegating it and it's not getting done, your team is feeling the pressure of that determination, of that decision. And over time, if difficult people do not change, the group is going to start responding. Not reacting, but responding. Okay, there's a difference between react and respond. React is more instantaneously, no thought, whereas respond is thinking through it. Okay. What ultimately starts to happen is that the group, you may see that they will begin to operate slightly below your expectations. So if you're starting to see a rise in your frustration with the group and the team as a whole, your team is likely operating below expectations, or you can't get them up until the next level because there's something that hasn't been dealt with in their eyes. May have been dealt with in your eyes as a leader, but not necessarily in their eyes. Okay. Over time, what's going to happen is that eventually they will begin to ostracize that person. And it won't be like nasty or mean, anything like that. It could, but like mature, smart, level-headed individuals, they're going to push that person out, which means that they're not going to invite them to, office curricular activities. Office curricular. There you go. Office curricular activities, right? Not extracurricular, office curricular. See what happens when you mix two words together? That was awesome. I like that. I'm going to have to remember that. Office curricular. Actually, I'm going to write that one down. Office curricular. Office curricular. All right. Office curricular activities. They're going to maybe disseminate the least objectionable duties to somebody because they know that that person is going to create an issue, or they're just going to do something to where they're not necessarily completely involving or giving the trust that is necessary to that particular individual. When it gets really bad, right? So the things that I talked about a little while ago, if the person that's just when the person doesn't impact the team in a great way, okay? But when this individual does impact the team in a really great way, what your team is going to start feeling is that this individual is like holding projects hostage, holding success hostage, and projects are either compromised or delayed because this individual is more of an obstacle rather than a vehicle. And that's what happens within teams. They start feeling that way. They start seeing that way. And here's the thing is that if they feel it and they start seeing it, anytime that they look upward, they're going to find the evidence to actually support that. And what's going to happen is that the evidence that they find is going to be the evidence that will actually push this person out of the group rather than finding or seeing the evidence that this person is actually a really good individual, especially if they're super difficult and they kept showing time and time again that they're not so wonderful, that they're more of a pain in the butt. Okay. So that's what's going to start happening. Now, you're probably sitting here listening. It's like, I've started to see this in my team, or I've experienced this before in the past. It's because you haven't gotten to the root causes to figure out how to go about fixing it. Okay. There's a lot of people that go like, yeah, I've seen stuff like that. And then it's just like, I wonder how we got there. That's what that last statement meant. Here's the other thing that happens is that your team, if you don't deal with this, they begin to isolate you as a leader because you didn't take the action. So it's like there's levels and there's this progressive downfall that happens. So the first one is that over time that the group operates, but they'll start to operate slightly below expectations, meaning you can't get them, they won't progress past, or you can't get them to rise to the next level. And then the next one is that they will start to ostracize that person. They won't include them in office curricular activities, even though I absolutely love that phrase now. They won't involve them in doing things as a cohesive group. Right? They don't have trust for that individual. And then they begin, when that person really becomes super toxic, is that they start to feel like the projects and timelines are now being held hostage, right? Or the progress of the project or the success of the project is compromised, and the results are going to be delayed as a result. And that just bugs the hell out of everybody. So there's like a lot of time that's invested in having to deal with this one person if a leader doesn't address the issue head on. Okay. It can also happen while the leader is also addressing the issue in the middle of it. But this is like more, what I'm talking about is more of the extreme cases that when a leader determines that this person is not worth going after, not worth, dealing with, and then they actually block and start pushing this person out of their own mind as being a potential problem. Okay. And then lastly, your team will begin to isolate you from the rest of the group because you didn't take action. Now, what exactly does that mean? Well, they're not going to be necessarily forthcoming. They will start to believe that if they tell you what's going on with this individual, that if you start to stand up and defend them, you may likely not be defending them. You may be defending your decision, but it's coming off as defending that person. So you have to be really clear about how you're communicating if you're paying attention to this. If you don't want to be, isolated from your team, right? They may not necessarily tell you quick enough that there's a problem that's coming up and how to, avoid it. And quite frankly, is that if your team has now isolated you from, from trusting you with information or feeling the need that it's important that they bring stuff to you that will just let the cards fall where they may, it means that they've lost trust in you. And I'll be honest with you, that is like one of the worst feelings that you can get. When your team loses trust in you because of a decision you made, it's one thing to make your decisions based off of principles and people don't like what you did, but they respect you because you have principles. But the problem is if you don't lead from a principle-based foundation, that when you lose trust, it is like the emptiest place to sit. It really is. So other things that will happen is that it's going to worsen. And when it does worsen, they're going to eventually wind up leaving, all right, for better conditions and more enriching opportunities. Now, here's the real big challenge for this. Are you ready? You're talking about having to operate 4 different generations. And the younger your generate or the younger the folks are, the quicker they are to turn around and actually take a hike. So your boomers and your Gen Xers, we're going to hang around longer. We got thicker skin. I'm not saying this to bash anybody. I'm just saying that, it's just culturally how we're brought up, right? We grew up under the silent generation, right? We were taught that, you get married and you are in it for the long haul. For better or for worse, you don't give up on each other. I mean, those were the people that we grew up under. The divorce was not a thing back then. Matter of fact, it was actually a shameful experience if you got divorced from that generation. So boomers and Xers, we were brought up under that influence, right? So we have a longer rope. Okay. Gen Y and Gen Z, well, you know what? They don't have as long a rope as we do. And so when they see that things aren't being handled, they're going to call BS and they're going to sooner. Okay. So your generational turnover is going to be dependent upon your age of your group. All right. Now, is every Gen Y and every Gen Z like that? No. Certain circumstances dictate. You may be operating or may living in an area to where they don't have a lot of options. Okay, that's fine. Those things happen and there's nothing wrong with that. However, you're going to wind up seeing some people that are going to go ahead and actually potentially make that exit. So that's what I have for you guys today. So pretty awesome, huh? We even got a new phrase out of it. Office curricular activities. I like that. So I have something for you today. I'm going to share with you. Now, if you are a follower of mine, you've probably already received this invitation. If you haven't followed me, then you are welcome to go ahead and jump on and do so. If you are struggling with what to say and how to say something to get through and cut through a lot of the drama, especially when it comes to dealing with difficult people, I have a free gift for you. Okay. That free gift, if you go to my website at yobrenda.com, you get to enroll in my free course called Impact Scripts. And Impact Scripts, there are 3 scripts in there that I have been using for many, many years that, I still use it to this day, and that helps me cut through the drama. And it's going to help you navigate, especially when you're talking about dealing with difficult people at work, or like you can use this on your family members. You can use it with friends. You can use it in social settings. You can use it in volunteer projects. Like you can use it with your in-laws and you can use it with your outlaws. All right. So if you use these scripts, you're just not going to have to deal with as much drama. The drama is still going to be around, but you are going to be more effective at getting to the root cause and getting to the heart of what is going on. Okay. So I promise you, I've tried and used these things for years, at least 20 years. And so I think that's a pretty good amount of time to determine whether they work or not. And they're actually pretty amazing. So find that if you go to yobrenda.com and go ahead and fill out your information. There's also going to ask you what was the one thing that you took away from hearing what you heard today. because I like to find out what you guys find impressive and valuable. So if you go ahead and put that information in, you will be all set. You can find me if you have other questions, feel free to go ahead and DM me right here on this channel. I'm more than happy to go ahead and answer your questions. And I just want to thank you so much for joining me today and giving me the opportunity to come up with office curricular activities. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll talk to you.